you.
Hey, welcome to Buffalo Football Talk, sort of live on the Daily News Facebook page. I'm Jimmy Jam from Western New York, CJ Country. I do the morning show from 6 to 10. You can hear it in the Batavia area at 105.5. I'm joined by the Batavia Daily News staff writers. We got Bills beat reporter Nick Wotan here and Joe Leathersich, Wyoming County reporter, and they both know their football, and we're here with you. And we have to apologize because yesterday we had a little snafu with the video. But it's up now. You know, the live capability is not there, but yet the analysis is, and next week we'll be live and you're taking your feedback and questions and all that good stuff. So we're here to talk obviously, about the Bills. They got a game coming up here tomorrow night against the New York Jets, week 2 of the season. They're coming off an abysmal loss to the Baltimore Ravens. And first things first, guys, just a quick post-mortem on the Ravens game. Not a good showing offensively by the Bills. Defense, great. If they did that all year long, it would be fine. But it was pretty bad offensively. What were your observations, Joe?
You know, exactly what you said about how the defense was great and the offense wasn't. I feel like that was the reverse of what people were anticipating, just because Rex Ryan's defense was, kind of underwhelming as last year, knowing that Rex Ryan is a defensive-minded guy. Excuse me. And I don't know. We all had our high expectations for Tyrod, and he just underperformed. And I don't know. I don't know if he was scared or what was going on.
Well, we had talked about this when we had done the original shoot. We talked about the fact that I had brought up he played tight. He seemed to anyway. He reminded me a lot of what I used to see Brett Favre do early in his career. That John Madden. I remember watching the game vividly, playing Dallas, and he was always hyped up at the start of a game, and he would overthrow receivers because that's that adrenaline going, and that sort of felt like what Tyrod was doing. He overthrew a lot of receivers in this ball game when it was incomplete, and it just seemed like he never got settled in, never got comfortable.
Yeah, I agree.
And quickly the pass protection. Rex Ryan tried to say, well, he didn't have time, with the protection. He had a lot of opportunities where he had more than enough time to throw the ball, and it seemed like his timing was off. And it just wasn't coming together. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I personally thought that maybe the moment was a little big for Tyrod. Not even a full season under his belt, 14 games, basically a full season. But
right.
He was going back home originally, his draft home, Baltimore. Maybe a little nerve in that. Maybe a little, they know him. They know him very well. He didn't play in the field at all in 4 years. Over the regular season, but he did practice against all those guys. So they know him pretty well. A lot of the same guys are there. And as you mentioned, not a lot of throwing down the field. He really didn't keep the defense honest. He said after the game he was taking what the defense gave him, but as we said, you gotta do something else. If what they're giving you isn't working, you gotta go another route. He didn't stretch the field at all.
Yeah.
And maybe even some questions of the offensive line for sure. We said before, Richie Incognito, Greg Roman, Rex Ryan, they all said it's got to be better as far as the offensive line is concerned going into tomorrow's game. And maybe some concerns with the plays getting in there. I'm sure we'll get into that later.
There was a concern with the offensive line's play and what they did. There was a concern about how fast the plays were getting in. There was talk that Roman wasn't getting the plays in fast enough. But I think it's best at this point to kind of look forward and look to where we go from here, because so much happened in the last 48 hours. The health of Sammy Watkins. Manish Mehta, one of the Jets beat reporters, put out a story there that the Bills may be shutting down Sammy for the season. And then you hear Rex Ryan refute that. You hear Sammy refute that, just saying, hey, I'm just sore and I need to be smart about this. There's a lot of misinformation out there, or just a lot of information, period, and a lot of it to the contrary. So, Is he banged up? Is it subterfuge, confusion? Always hurt, and this and that, or are the Bills not letting on that it's worse than it is? Because preseason, the thing with Shaq Lawson and all that stuff. I mean, what do you think?
What you said there, the short week, is really what the mindset was in the locker room on Monday and Tuesday this week. Like I said, spoke to Richie. He said it's a blessing in disguise, basically, for the team that it's a short week. Get to put that first loss behind them real quick. Hopefully, just nix it out with a win on Thursday for the guys. But same thing with Sammy, and you mentioned Sammy's injury there. He said, short week, they're going to forget about it. But his injury was the big news. You never know, I think, with Sammy. Hamstring before, foot, of course, is the lingering thing with him. He says all the time he's okay, but then it seems like he's not okay. So I guess really we'll find out Thursday what's going to happen with Sammy, if he's going to be out there or not. Right now he's listed as questionable, and while we're on the injury talk, Cordy Glenn is out.
Yep,
he
heard that today. Yep.
Sunday.
The thing is, too, Sammy is very sensitive about people saying he's injury prone. He's had 8 different things happened to him since he came to the Bills, of various types, and he's very he doesn't show his hand much either. So, but I think look, a little misinformation for the Jets is a good thing. They don't need to know what he can do, what he can't do, and maybe there's the ability to use that to their advantage for a while. But bottom line is, based on that last game, the Bills last year, 20% of the time threw it 20 yards or more. They went long. They did it once on Sunday, and it's not gonna be enough. And they got to stretch the field. The Jets have an excellent pass rush, and they may not be as good in the secondary. Darrelle Revis. He's still a wily veteran, crafty. But the physical gifts aren't there like they used to be.
12 catchers, 180 yards, and a touchdown for AJ Green last week. And you're mentioning there the downfield passing. That affected the running game as well, if you will, because LaShawn McCoy had 16 carries and 2.8 yards per carry. And that was a very good 2.8 yards a carry because he had nothing in front of him. Yeah,
he had nice chunks later in the game. He had to fight to get to that 2.8 because he did have some nice runs later on in the game.
Do we think talking about Thursday and the downfield passes? Do we think Roman and Sammy just go out there kind of like things as usual, just throw the ball downfield, or do we try to run some out routes and keep it short to hopefully keep him healthy?
I don't know. All I'll tell you is they got to do something different because what they were doing clearly wasn't working, and they need to wake up that offense. Now let's talk about going forward. This is the obviously the Bills-Jets rivalry goes back to the AFL days, but in the last 5 meetings, Buffalo's won all 5. They've outscored the Jets 174 to something like 174 to 67, something like that. It's 167 to 74 is the number, I think. And Fitz out of those Fitz against Rex Ryan, he's 1 of 7 in the last 8. He's got under 50% of his passes completed. He's not productive. He had 1 game over 200 yards. The last 2 games, the Bills won 22-17, home and away. So, what are the keys for the Bills? Joe, what do you think the keys are for the Bills in this one as far as with regards to Fitz?
I think, getting him under pressure is, that can help the Bills out a lot. We know he's always good for at least 1 interception, typically at the end of the game on the final drive. Last year he had, there were 4 turnovers last year. 2 of those were interceptions, and so I think if we can get to him, rattle him up a little bit mentally, the ball might just end up in the Bills' hands.
Anything else, Nick?
Really, this game on Thursday for both teams is almost a must-win at this point in the season. Going 0-2, we since our last taping have run a story, Batavia Daily News, the dailynewsonline.com. You guys can check it out. Rex and Fitz are really playing off this meeting, that they think it's not going to be none of this going back home type thing, but
it's not personal for him, is what you're saying this time around.
Yeah. But really, everyone should be taking it personal, all 53 guys, because just going through the numbers in the last 5 seasons of the 60 playoff teams, only 6.67 teams who made the playoffs in the past 5 years. That's 4 teams started the season 0-2, so it's not looking good for whoever doesn't win this game.
Right.
In addition, between 1990 and 2009, of all teams, 160 teams, I believe it was, according to an ESPN report, went 0-2 in all that big time frame. Only 13% of those teams ever made the playoffs. So this is they're going to put yourself behind the 8 ball if you don't win this one. And just going to Fitz, we'll talk about it more when we get to our predictions. But guys, as I said before, I just always think Fitz is going to Fitz. He did it last week when he had a chance to come back and he throws an interception, and that's what I think Bills fans are going to be hoping for on Thursday.
Well, Rex Ryan has never started a season 0-2, so I've probably just jinxed him right there. Sorry, buddy. This is Buffalo Football Talk Live, sort of this week, but nonetheless, we're bringing you our coverage and what we think is going to happen in the Bills-Jets game. And if you love picking games, if you love picking the winners in the NFL, Football Frenzy and the Batavia Daily News, go there each week and do your predictions. We're going to be doing it. Joe's doing it. Nick's doing it. I'm doing it. Some better than others. But nonetheless, go check it out. And it's brought to you by Batavia Downs. And, I guess there's a guest picker as well, too, every week. Someone who cleaned our clocks, apparently. But whatever. The standings will be up here in a little bit, but we wasn't pretty. So we got our work cut out for us. When it comes to other dynamics of this ballgame. We talk about Fitzpatrick and what his limitations are, and what it means now to come back. He's got this huge contract, or he got the contract done finally after weeks of not doing anything. And he's coming back to Buffalo. That's a weird environment. Where else can the Jets exploit the Bills as far as offensively going? I mean, is it really with the passing game? Do they have a running game at all in your mind? Do they have anything that could work against Buffalo?
Rex said that he thinks that Matt Forte compared to Chris Ivory, the previous back, brings a little bit more to the table. I think it's going to be that vertical passing game if Fitz can get it going between Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall. But is what is going to come into question. As I mentioned before, I spoke to my buddy David Ville from Gang Grig Nation on SB Nation. He's the managing editor there.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it's been sort of a roller coaster between the Jets and Fitzpatrick regarding fans. Up and down. They wanted him, then okay, you're asking too much, and then finally we got him. Just live up to it. So now when it comes down to the X's and O's, fans, and David himself said he's kind of worried that chemistry might not be there. So, I mean, I think it's going to have to come from the passing game with the Jets. That's how they did it last year. Fitz had a career year last year, so that's going to be how they're going to get up back to 10-6. But did that whole contract thing mess up his chemistry, missing all that time? I think that's what the Jets are going to find out in the coming few weeks. I mean, if they don't get it going until week 4 or 5, they could be in. I mean, we said 0-2. Their 8-ball could be a little bigger.
Yeah. Speaking of the running game too, Forte's a little long in the tooth too. He's been playing for several years. We know what the average life expectancy of an NFL running back tends to be, and it's not in his favor. But so we don't know what we're going to get in this ballgame. The pass rush for the Jets got that much stronger now with the suspension got lifted for Sheldon Richardson. Thank you very much for picking that up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they got 7 sacks on Dalton. Is there any?
And now missing Glenn.
Yeah, and now missing Cordy Glenn, who's going to be out. Is there any difference or anything you can see as far as differences when you look at the Bengals' offensive line, who gave up all those sacks, and Buffalo's offensive line right now? Where I mean, is there any hope that the Buffalo can protect him in a proper way, or do you think there's the Roman's got a couple of tricks in his bag to keep Taylor standing upright in the pocket?
Well, there's certainly hope, but whether that comes through is not necessarily guaranteed. I think we might see a lot of the same as far as underwhelming offense and the defense surprising us. So I don't really know. I think Tyrod is still going to struggle with timing, which isn't necessarily an excuse. I just think that's something that, knowing his offensive line, he's going to need to deal with and kind of address as far as the passing game and whatever the plays are.
Is what it comes down to. Usually they say with the shorter quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, not that they're on the same playing level right now, we hope,
right.
But the pocket has to be a little bit deeper for those short guys. He's not as tall. A little bit tougher for him to see over the guy. A little tougher for him to get over the center of the field, which is the knock on Tyrod. He doesn't go down the middle. So the Jets, the Bills got to hold that bull rush. I mean, you mentioned 7 sacks. Leonard Williams, 2.5. Steve McLendon, 2. Tom Wilkerson, a sack and a half. I mean, they were all over Andy Dalton. Dalton still did get it done because, as I said, Fitz going to Fitz at the end of that game. But Tyrod's going to, I think, have to make things happen over the middle. But I think he's got to make them with his legs a little bit more. I mean, if that pocket's collapsed and he can't see, that's,
Yeah, it was interesting. One of the Ravens players after the game brought up the point that what was the strategy for Tyrod? Well, force him to play quarterback and try to stand in the pocket. And I almost feel like they tried to, instead of going long, they tried to say, yeah, we can throw across the middle. Tyrod can throw across the middle, and they ran all those crossing routes instead of taking the game vertical, which could have opened up room for Shetty and made things happen. So I'm hoping that things will get unscrewed this week. It's going to be a look. There's a couple things that I think will benefit the Bills. It's a home opener. It is a Thursday night. The dynamics there. Some of the loudest games I've ever been to at what was the Ralph and is now New Era Field are those night games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the loudest I've ever been was that 2007 Monday night game against Dallas. It was an incredible game. I mean, I to this day when I'm at there, I've heard some loud games and nothing comes close. It's that whole aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Being at home, I think, could help them. I think that dynamic can help them, and I think that it's crucial that the fans be energized going into this. If you're going to the game, get pumped up because they're going to need every little bit of help here. Now, special teams. Let's talk about that for a minute. I I think Reggie Bush, if we're going to have him return kicks, that's fine. Let's not have him run the ball because he's east-west, he's not north-south, right? We good on that because that was not pretty. Yeah. That was, he was trying to use his old college speed.
Right, yeah.
You brought up the other day, and it was the same thing C.J. Spiller used to do here.
Oh, yeah.
Try to use his speed to get to the corner when the reality is the game's faster here. Reggie's got years on what C.J. was when he was trying to do it.
Right. I don't know if you heard yesterday, C.J. was let go by the Saints.
Yeah, I did hear about that. No interest there, right? He's going to sit for a while. I don't think
No, that's...
we don't want to mind that again, do we?
if you out there were concerned that Doug Whaley took on Shady for C.J. Spiller, I think you got your answer on who ended up on the right end of that bargain.
Well, say what you want about some of the choices that people criticize Whaley for. He's pretty good at knowing when the well's dry and letting guys go and moving them on. That's the one thing he's very good.
Too, yeah.
Freddie.
Yeah.
Freddie. It was the right time. Mm-hmm. So special team standpoint, Carpenter, just a normal miss, or has this guy got the yips again? Are we going to see a repeat of what happened last year?
I think it's probably just a normal miss. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Just one kick, just because. It wasn't quite a chip shot. 50 yards, 49 yards, I think it was. But
today's NFL, though, some of those guys,
I agree. Some of those guys are automatic, but is where I'm going to start getting nervous as Carpenter is if he misses one of those extra points. That was the knock on Carpenter last year. He missed a couple extra points, missed the most. If he starts missing those, that's going to be my Carpenter concern right there.
It's not really news how Rex got on him a lot last year, pretty early. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised to see Carpenter on the roster for the length of the season. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was cut before the end of the season, and if he got cut in the off season. So I don't know. I think the yips could be a part of it.
All right, Buffalo Football Talk live, sort of, this week on the Batavia Daily News Facebook page. We're live every Tuesday at 4. We had a little problem this past week, but we'll be back live and taking your feedback, answering your questions, and play Football Frenzy. It's a lot of fun picking the games. You know that because we do it even when we're not competing for something, but you got a chance to compete for something in the Batavia Daily News print edition, and it's brought to you by Batavia Downs, the home of 34 Rush, where you can see NFL games there all season long. Prediction time, guys. All right, so here's the thing. I'll let you guys go first and stuff because you had me torn by the end of yesterday's conversation, and I'm not sure why. So, Joe, what's going to happen? And this time I'm going to hold you to come up with a score.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. You're not buying a house.
Right.
Tell me who and what.
Yeah. So, I had mentioned earlier in our conversation, I think tomorrow night's game is going to be more of the same. I think our offense is going to be lackluster. Defense is going to come out strong. So with that, I have the Jets winning 14-7.
Okay.
14-7. All right.
Nick, what do you got?
I have the Bills winning this one. I have the Bills winning 24-17. I think the offense shows a little bit better, and I think where the key is going to be not just on the offense. They had some penalties in there too. I think they're going to get that together this week. Maybe not perfect because it's those laps at St. John Fisher weren't exactly working, I guess, to a T because they still got 8 penalties for about 90 yards last week.
Right.
But I'm going to go with the Bills. I think last year fits between the two games. He was held under 200 yards both games by Rex's D. I think we're going to see a defensive / special teams touchdown in this one. I don't think it's going to be all offense like Joe said. I don't think they're going to be perfect. But I think, again, Bills 24-17 over the Jets, and Fitz is going to Fitz in this one. He's going to throw some picks. He's going to be held under 200 yards.
Now, I was so ready to take the Jets in this just to kind of reverse our luck. All right? But I'm going to say it right now. Bills 22, Jets 17 again. And this time, Darby holds on to the ball, takes it back to the house, and pulls off a win for the Bills.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because 0-2 is not a pretty sight. We don't want to do it. So if you're going to the game, again, be loud. Get into it, all right? That is Joe Leatherstitch from the Batavia Daily News. That is Nick Wotan from the Batavia Daily News. I am Jimmy Jam from CJ Country, morning 6 to 10. You can hear it in the Batavia area at 105.5. And, again, play Football Frenzy with the Batavia Daily News, brought to you by Batavia Downs, home of 34 Rush, where you can see NFL games there all season long. Get your picks in. And enjoy this week's football, and let's hope for a Bills win. And we'll talk to you next Tuesday, 4 p.m. live. And remember, if you can't watch it live, there's a replay whenever you like, we hope, on Facebook. All right, see you next time.